Hey there everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Alex with Dungeon Proper. I'm going to be your host for today. Have you ever just thought that maybe there aren't enough resources out there in Dungeons & Dragons for 5th edition? Are you a struggling dungeon master that just needs a little bit of help in a certain area? Well, today we're going to be talking about 5 resources that I think you should definitely be using if you want to up your game and really just make a more well-rounded campaign. Before we begin, I just really want to start off by saying it's been a rather chaotic week. That's why there hasn't been an upload in a little bit. I am currently still working on the project. I just got my camera that came in. I'm actually not using it because I was having a bit of technical difficulties with it, so I'm still using the standard webcam, and I'm going to look for an upgrade to that. I think this format's actually rather easier. But that's pretty much it. I don't want to delay you too long, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it with number 5. Alright, so as that little transition might have showed off, we're going to be talking about Kobold Fight Club. If you aren't familiar with what it is, or you haven't seen my previous videos, Kobold Fight Club is a great tool that helps average out party level and sort of do all the math for you when it comes to encounter building. Now keep in mind, there are still going to be a lot of factors like environment and things like that. And by no means are we doing a whole thorough breakdown of everything on this list. But Kobold Fight Club, definitely wanted to get out there. I think it's rather underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. You could essentially just build an entire encounter in it. Typically, all you have to do is just set the amount of players, their level, and it'll give you a nice and easy budget that you could work with in order to sort of build out your encounter. You could search for any sort of creature. You can search for dragons, you can search for trolls, and not only will it tell you, their name, it'll tell you their creature rating, their size, what type of monster they are, what their alignment is in the rulebook, and then of course like resources for where you can even get those. There's even little sections in the top right over here where you can even, manage encounters, manage players, and you can even run encounters as well. So if you're looking to try and balance out or determine the difficulty of a encounter before your players actually run into it, this is a great tool to actually sort of get you started. And that's really all I have to it. It's super simple, easy to use, and I can't recommend it enough. The link will be down below. Now enough about that, let's go ahead and jump into number 4. Let's go ahead and talk about shopping. Now, I don't know about you or your playstyle, but my players, about half the time, is honestly what I call wind down. They love to do their shopping, they love to do stuff around town, explore, things like that. It can often get exhausting when you're actually just trying to come up with things on the fly. What's inside each shop? Do you make it just one big old shop or like market district? I found an online Reddit post here by user J. Rob Herring. I'm not sure if this is the person that made everything, but I'm going to give him credit for the post at least. And essentially what he had done is he put together this list right here, the D&D shop catalog. And this is wow. So what this has is it has different types of shops like the blacksmith slash armory, the Fletcher slash bowyer, leatherworker, that would sell different types of materials. This goes all the way down to even general store and magic items, shady dealers. You could find a whole lot of stuff here. And what I particularly like about it is that it already includes a list of cost. And essentially this breaks down into what it normally cost, what it could be considered cheap, or what's considered expensive. And typically I base that off of, where they are in the world. So this place has, if there's like a limited stock item, it might be a little more expensive. If you're sort of out and not in a major city, you might only find these items in a rural setting, or you might not find certain items in a rural setting rather. And then additionally, it gives you like a great range of items to work with. Typically what I do now is I sort of set up in each little area a market district that my players can visit as an action they choose to do for the day. And in that area, I actually end up naming these in part of the city. So the blacksmith armory I might call Dwarf Dave's or something like that, just off the top of my head. And they can go visit that. So it gives the city a little bit of flavor, and it actually makes them feel like they're going to a specific location instead of just shopping. If you really want to try and flesh out your city, I really recommend using this. And then of course, as with anything, fully customizable to your liking. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into number 3. I don't know why I raised both hands. Number 3, I hesitated. That's what happens. All right, now, as you might have seen on the title screen again, the title of this one is called The Home Brewery. This is more of a niche item, and it really depends on the style of DM you are. I recently discovered it, and I'm actually using it for a wider purpose, but it can still be interesting if you want to just make a quick page for your players. To sort of break it down, what you sort of see here in front of you is a little text box on the left, and then that same text converted into an official-looking D&D 5e sort of style. There's a whole lot of customization you can do to this. Everything from sizes to styles to underlinings to like images that you can put in. Actually, you can't even really see the image that I put in there. It's a little flaming sword. There you go. But this is actually just a little draft of a book that I'm working on for DM's Guild and hopefully to present to Wizards at some point. But if you're someone that likes to write encounters this way, or you just need a creative outlet and you just sort of got all that pent up in you, I'd suggest take a look at the Home Brewery. Again, I'm going to link it down below in the comments. This will help it really give a more official vibe, and that could also in turn motivate you more. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump over to number 2. Here we are at number 2. Now, as you can see, we're just on a Google page here, and all I've Googled is D&D 5e Travel Encounters table. If you aren't quite sure how to handle travel encounters, or you find it just a bit too random or a bit too wacky, I highly suggest looking up a encounters table. Really, you can't go too wrong here. You just sort of have to try and figure out what your play style is. I typically like to go for ones that are non-combat, and if there are combat, I usually just do it more of a theater of mind sort of thing, but you really can't go wrong with a lot of these. You open them up, you pretty much tell the players per day or maybe per little square or however you lay out your map to just sort of go ahead and roll a 1d100. Each player can roll like once per trip or however the case might be, and you just sort of read off what it says. So let's say they roll a 31. A loaded wagon travels down the road toward the party, but it has no apparent means of propulsion. So maybe they can sort of figure out what's going on. Maybe there's a little ghost encounter there. Maybe it's just a runaway wagon going down the hill and it's just full of treasure, but the treasure is trapped. You might have to get a little creative with it, but there's really just it's just a great way to just go ahead and get through the night if you feel that travel isn't the most important thing to you, or you're looking for ways to spice it up. Often what I'll do is I'll take one of these travel encounter tables and I'll edit everything just to sort of fit the needs of the story and build the story. But that's what I have here, and if you can always make your own. If you have your own ideas for travel, I'd like to hear about that. I'd like to hear about it in the comments below. Anyway, with that whole kerfuffle done, let's hop over to number 1. Now, I know my title cards are giving it away, but you still might be a little confused by what I mean when I say the party. Well, as a dungeon master, I think ultimately your best resource is your own party, your own players. If you really, really want to advance as a dungeon master or improve upon this varied skill set, I highly recommend that you always ask your players, how they're feeling, what do they like, what do they not like. Usually just do a little survey at the end of a session. Most of the time, your friends or companions or comrades or whatever might tell you that you just did a good job, but maybe you just try and get a little bit of elaboration from them. What did they particularly like? Was there anything that was too challenging? Was there anything that they would have done different that would have made sense? And from there, just jot down little notes and try to consider those. Ultimately, what I like to do is for each session, I like to try and include 1 or 2 character-specific sections that are ideal for that character. I don't point them out and say, hey, rogue, this is your time to shine, but I try to present that area of opportunity for them. That way, everyone gets to feel like they've participated, and additionally, they feel like they're more welcome at the table. I like to take things from their story and their background and fit them into the campaign. But the only way you're ever actually going to know about this stuff is if you thoroughly know who you're playing with, what characters they have, how they want to roleplay them, and what they're comfortable with. So I guess ultimately, as cheesy and campy as it is, ask questions. Don't be afraid to get criticized and learn from it. Anyway, let's just go ahead and get into our little conclusion here. Weird transition. Okay, that might have probably not looked as cool as it needed. I promise that I'm working on getting better quality stuff, guys. Anyway, that's all, folks, for today's video. Like I said, I usually just want to try and pump out something nonchalant, pretty casual, just to sort of get some discussion going. Did you know about these resources? Did you like what you heard? Are you definitely going to use them in your next campaigns or next sessions? I'd love to hear down below in the comments. As always, if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, which will pop up here now. And for more content, I still have some projects I'm working on. I actually have to get some filming in order now after this. But I do want to say I appreciate all that you do for me. I hope you all have a great time. May your rolls be high and the enemy ACs be low. I don't know. That's probably not going to be my catchphrase. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.